who is Kamala Harris, and what she supports. The reasons most Americans will not vote for Kamala Harris have nothing to do with being a woman or being of Indian descent. It bothers people that she identifies as a Black American because she's not being true to her culture. How radical is Kamala Harris? Here are things she personally endorsed. 1. She was one of only 14 people that endorsed the Green New Deal. Among those who signed it were Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, placing Kamala with the radical of the radical. 2. Harris co-sponsored single-payer healthcare, universal healthcare. 3. She advocated for a complete transition away from fossil fuels in 10 years, which would have led to the collapse of our economy. 4. She supported a universal government jobs guarantee. 5. She was also for government programs promising universal access to healthy foods. 6. She wanted to upgrade every single home and business building in the country for energy efficiency. 7. Harris also supported universal basic income, new national living wage standards, more power for labor unions, a whole new electric grid, the end of gasoline cars by 2030, and the transformation of U.S. agriculture, including the end of much of the cattle industry. Her policies have always been horrific radical, far-left Marxist ideology. Packing the Supreme Court, abortion up to the time of birth, banning fracking and domestic fossil fuels, defunding the police, bail reform, open borders, 20 million unvetted illegal aliens, bringing crimes, fentanyl, and human trafficking, which includes children. Remember, this is not rhetoric, it's in her own words. Look it up. She never talks about inflation, which rose 9% in her first year as vice president and has not come back down since. Nothing could be more obvious than that the Biden-Harris administration caused inflation to rise from less than 2% under Donald Trump, egged on by Harris's San Francisco radical programs. Yet all we hear from Harris is how she wants to cut oil production by banning fracking and offshore drilling. As president, Kamala Harris says she is going to make taxpayer-funded Medicare for all. She is also for open borders, so guess who the taxpayers are that are going to be paying for the millions of illegals' healthcare? Anyone with private insurance will lose it. She is also raising corporate taxes to 35%, so guess where those corporations will be moving to? You think the economy is bad? Wait until she gets in. Where are her pro-growth policies? Harris also proposes to further burden taxpayers by making them pay for capital gains on their real property holdings even if they are not sold. We are all accustomed to paying capital gains tax when we sell our homes. But that's okay, because we just have to set aside some of our profits to pay the tax. But Harris wants to tax what she calls unrealized capital gains. Translation, she wants to tax what you would make if you sold your home, which you don't plan to do. She wants to tax potential income from your property. How are you supposed to pay that tax with no proceeds coming in? Just dig into your savings. Kamala Harris can't be allowed to smuggle in the most radical tax plans while she spends her time debating social issues. She's a democratic socialist and incompetent. These extreme policies are not only from Biden-Harris, but also the Obamas, which he's been running the country in the background, known as the puppet master for Joe, and now Kamala. For 3.5 years, we have experienced the ramifications of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris's disastrous administration, which has left people less safe as crime has surged. California has had a front-row seat to Harris's soft-on-crime policies for 2 decades. Having suffered from her far-left, extreme agenda that for years prioritized criminals over Californians, the last thing Harris deserves is a promotion to the White House. She's had a surprising amount of staff turnover in her first year in office, with her communications chief and press spokesperson both departing. A particularly stinging blow came in the Washington Post, where an anonymous former staffer said she was unwilling to do the work necessary for the job and took out her frustration on her aides. With Kamala, you have to put up with a constant amount of soul-destroying criticism and also her own lack of confidence, the former staffer said. So you're constantly sort of propping up a bully, and it's not really clear why. With Kamala's record, Americans wouldn't be able to afford rent, a house, or gas. Kamala Harris needs to own her policies that failed the American people. The Green New Deal is an extreme socialist wish list to ban gas vehicles, drastically restrict energy production, and wants all Americans to be under government controlled. The policies of Harris actively supports have caused pain at the pump for every American, and that wasn't an accident. Go to factcheckharris.com and read it for yourself. Kamala opened the border to millions of illegal immigrants that have flooded American streets with deadly drugs and gangs that have spiked overdoses by over 124% and brought more crimes into minority communities. As prosecutor, she turned many criminals loose and even collected monies to pay their bail, or should I say, the taxpayers' money. She publicly voted for every person in the US to get free healthcare. When asked if that included illegals in our country, she says yes. I'm sure like intelligent, caring Americans will proof check Kamala's true record. Fact check these things while a lot more truths come out. Don't take my word for it, look up these facts. Kamala was the most liberal senator, ranking to the left of Bernie Sanders. Harris believes in giving free benefits to illegal aliens. She wants to abolish ICE. She wants to make critical race theory the law of the land. Kamala Harris applauded the defunding of police. She wanted to ban all fossil fuels, get rid of the filibuster. She wants to get rid of fracking. Her staff has some of the highest turnover in Washington, D.C., 92% gone in 3 years. Kamala Harris co-sponsored legislation to protect criminals from being deported back to their country of origin. She backed Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All, government-run healthcare. She backed banning private healthcare insurance. If you have private healthcare, she wants to take away your freedom of choice. Harris supported taxpayer-funded healthcare for illegal aliens and raising taxes to fund it. Kamala Harris wants to ban plastic, but not late-term abortions. She wants to eliminate Trump's border security measures. Kamala wants to take away your Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. She has supported decriminalizing illegal border crossings, making them a civil offense, not a criminal offense. Kamala Harris went out of her way and raised money for the Minnesota Freedom Fund, a far-left organization used to bail out violent criminals, including rapists and murderers. She supported vocally to cut funds for the Los Angeles Police Department. Kamala Harris is a California communist. Harris has already demonstrated her willingness to weaponize the Department of Justice and law enforcement to target her political opponents. What we've seen over the last 3.5 years has been so brazen in their abuse of power. It will be worse with Kamala Harris, who herself touts her record and the kind of president she will be as a prosecutor president, when we already know she will be a corrupt prosecutor president. If Kamala Harris is elected president, the policies she enacted in California will and are becoming the new order of America, and there will be nowhere for companies to flee to. A campaign official for Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris acknowledged Wednesday that the vice president is deliberately misleading voters about Project 2025. CNN first reported the stunning admission as part of a fact-check article. Harris making false claims about Project 2025 and about former President Donald Trump's stance on Social Security. A Harris campaign official said the campaign has made a deliberate decision to brand all of Trump's policies as Project 2025, since they believe it has stuck with voters, just to mislead them. The real name for Trump's policies is Agenda 47, which you can watch the videos on this channel in English and Spanish. When Kamala Harris was running for president 4 years ago, she said that raising corporate taxes is a necessity. Her proposal would hike business taxes to a whopping 35%. To put that in perspective, that's even more than socialist countries' taxes, it's private enterprises. U.S. corporate tax rate current, 21%. Joe Biden proposal, 28%. Kamala Harris proposal, 35%. And here's the truth, when American businesses have to pay more taxes, it's the workers and consumers who pay the price. Wages are impacted and prices go up. Unsurprisingly, Kamala Harris also supports repealing the Trump tax cuts that provided much-needed relief for the American middle class and led to a booming economy under President Trump. It doesn't matter if she's a woman, it's what she stands for that should matter to you. Kamala Harris says she supports illegal immigrants getting free healthcare. Also, with open borders, the entire planet of 8 billion people could come to the USA and get free healthcare. It is an insane combo of policies. You can have mass immigration or you can have a generous welfare system. You can't have both. Kamala Harris has played an integral role in pushing the administration's disastrous economic policies that have left Americans worse off. Although she is flip-flopping on her positions today for political purposes, Harris is a San Francisco liberal who is out of touch with the hardworking men and women across this great country. It's a complete farce to assume she cares about fiscal responsibility and restoring our economy when her record suggests otherwise. Harris desperately wants Americans to believe that gas prices are down. However, the result of the Biden-Harris administration's policies has been record-setting oil prices, and gas that still costs more than $1 per gallon more than when she took office as vice president. Since day one of her vice presidency, Harris has helped Biden wage a war on American energy independence by suspending leases and reinstating harmful energy regulations. Harris's policies are drastically out of step with the American mainstream. Don't be fooled by the left. Make sure you vote based on facts and not feelings on this November. Review the policies of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump and see whose policy aligns more with your faith. This woman will further destroy the United States of America. She'll giggle her way through her campaign, and God help us if she wins the presidency. The only true leader for America, vote for President Trump on November 5th.